the News Channel 5 network. This is Open Line.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for Open Line tonight. Tonight's topic, politics. We're going to get down and dirty. The governor gave his State of the State address, the final one tonight. I have Pat Nolan sitting alongside me tonight. Pat, thank you for being here, as
glad
always.
To be here. Sure, glad to be here.
It's fun to talk politics with you because you can bring in the history and you're always looking ahead to what's next. This was a significant night for the governor.
It was. This was his 8th and final State of the State address. He used a lot of it, as you would expect in any State of the State address, to talk about a lot about his achievements and also, in this case, to share it with the Republican General Assembly. And together, there was a lot of applauding of themselves. But I noticed that it seemed like all the standing ovations, and there were many of those, were all shared across the board. So I think it was that kind of speech, but he didn't use this last one to say, gee, see what I've done, but to also challenge the state to not only challenge for the rest of the country, but to be the leader in areas he wants to be.
Yeah, he didn't say just improve. He says we need to be the best in 3 areas. Education,
jobs, and government efficiency. And I know some people will poke holes in that, and there's some things he didn't mention tonight. But he did offer up some facts and figures and statistics, including some quotes from some of the major business publications that look after government and those sorts of things to back up what he said. And there are some things certainly to talk about as Tennessee has improved. It will be interesting to see how much of what he said tonight is echoed by the candidates for governor who are already out there, the 5 Republicans, who you would think would want to say that's great because they want to do likewise. They want to continue what he's done. Or do they? I guess we'll hear about that. Surely I think the Democrats will take some exception to some of the stuff he said, but I'll be interested to see how far they move away from that. So that's some of the things I'll be looking for going forward, to hear what the candidates for governor say about how they will continue what Bill Haslam does, or how they might not continue, and if they don't, what will they do instead?
No, you can certainly believe that there are a lot of meetings going on with this speech in mind and with the achievements in mind and the failures in mind, saying, okay, what are we going to claim? What are we going to say we can do better, and go from there?
I haven't heard any responses from any candidates or anybody on the legislature, but I suspect the Democrats on the Hill, and maybe the gubernatorial candidates, one of whom is on the Hill too. Craig Fitzhugh is the House Minority Leader. The governor made no mention of health care at all in it. He didn't say anything about the 9 rural hospitals that have closed in the state. That was not an issue he talked about at all. So it may have looked like paradise, but I'm sure the Democrats and others will find maybe a couple things that maybe aren't quite up to being
say, hey, what
paradise
about this?
yet.
Yeah, let's not forget.
We'll see. I don't want to say that's exactly what they're going to put words in their mouth, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's not one of the things they talk about tonight that will be slightly a stone thrown.
I'm sure we will get some press releases into the newsroom yet tonight. We'll have the latest on those tonight at 10. Yes, exactly. They probably really are. It doesn't usually take much time. I want to remind you, this is a call-in show, so it's your chance to have your voice heard. We would love to hear your opinion, your thoughts on tonight's speech, and even the last 7 years and what the state needs moving forward. The number is at the bottom of the screen. 615-737+ is the number to call. But before we begin talking amongst ourselves, let's look at the governor's speech, at least the first part of it, where he took a look back at his first 7 years in office. Take a listen.
7 years ago, we began changing our expectations. In doing so, we realized we could compete with any state. Well, maybe that should have been a foregone conclusion. But at the time, remember, federal funds were vanishing. We were contending with a $1 billion hole in the state budget. But because of our willingness to make tough calls and take on challenges, Tennessee grew stronger. The kind of progress we are talking about has not happened for many other states. I'll remind you that even in this healthy economy, many states are facing deficits. This kind of fiscal responsibility matters because people count on us to deliver critical services, whether the economy is good or bad. You see, Tennessee's success didn't just happen. We didn't just get lucky. We have made tough decisions together and focused on solving problems. That's how real progress is made. So let me be clear. Because of the effectiveness of our work, Tennessee is in a better place today than it has ever been before. But you and I learned a long time ago, to whom much is given, much is expected. This evening, I'm proposing a bold new challenge. I want Tennessee to lead the nation in jobs, education, and government efficiency. I don't just want us to compete. I want us to be the best. Seven years ago, we raised our expectations. We became the kind of leaders who didn't just talk about cutting taxes and enhancing services. We actually did lower taxes while at the same time growing our economy and providing access to high-quality education. We cannot lose the momentum we have worked so hard to build. Now's the time to ask ourselves this question: can Tennessee really lead the nation? And just as important, why should we want to do that? Our reasons for desiring to lead are simple. Our country's founding fathers established the states as laboratories for democracies. Each state could choose its own path and learn what works. In Tennessee, we now know what works. We've seen extraordinary job gains, and now we must continue to fuel the jobs machine that we have created here in Tennessee. We've gone from the back of the pack in education results to being a state frequently cited as an innovator. Now we have the opportunity to accelerate those gains. And working together, our record of low taxes and low debt now position us to be the very best stewards of the people's money. You know, this is a time when American people are frustrated. They're frustrated with political gridlock. But Tennessee can lead the charge in showing the country what it means to actually solve problems. Can we lead? The answer is yes. Tennessee can and will lead, and I'm confident that the Tennessee way of providing opportunity while ensuring accountability will prevail.
And as the governor wrapped up that little section, you perked up a little bit, Pat, and tell me why.
I did. Well, Bill Haslam is a fairly young man leaving office. He may not have run his last race. 2 years from now, Senator Alexander has to decide whether he wants to seek another term as U.S. Senator. If he does not do that, is Bill Haslam interested in going to Washington for that? Is Bill Haslam interested down the road to run for president on the Republican ticket in all likelihood? Is that what he wants to do? He's probably got time to wait out a couple of cycles on that.
Sure.
And certainly he can take his Tennessee way, what he's done here in Tennessee, to talk about that now. He has some fences to mend even in his own state about that. He didn't vote. He publicly said he did not vote for Donald Trump, and that doesn't go down well with some elements of the party. But they won't vote about that for a couple of years if he runs again. But it just made me sort of think of what may be coming down the road. And this may not be the last time we'll hear Bill Haslam make a speech.
Sure.
Although next time it may be more like a campaign. Now, I don't think he's planning a campaign right now. I mean, I think he's really going to concentrate on what he does this last year. But
We'll
2 years in politics is a lifetime, and he certainly has plenty of time to plot his strategy moving forward if opportunities present themselves.
And just like at the beginning of the speech, he said today, 7 years ago or 8 years ago, he said, I just felt called to run for governor, to lead this state.
And then his wife reminded him he had to be elected, not just called. He had to be elected to do that.
So you just wonder if he might feel another calling later, a little bit later.
Yeah, and you know, it was interesting to hear how much he had learned, because he talked about the first time he went up there to make that speech 7 years ago. He thought maybe it was only the third time he'd ever been in the House chambers. Now that meant he really had not spent a lot of time up on Capitol Hill. Some people would say that's a really good thing to start out that way, but how much he's learned over, because trust me, he's been in the House chambers many more times than that, in the plaza, and now probably over in the Codell Hull building quite a bit more, and certainly his staff has been. And
interesting that several of the folks running for governor, well, maybe not several, but a handful, have also probably not spent a lot of time in the chamber.
Well, a lot of them have not. Well, Diane Black, who's one of the leading candidates, has. She spent some time in the legislature herself. I suspect tonight's speech is one that Beth Harwell will try to use, because she's very much been running on what has happened in the legislature and this administration working together to get things done, while the others have tended to focus a little more on send me to Nashville and I'll clean up the mess up there. Well, what's that mess? And so we'll be interesting to see how that works, but I would imagine she may try to be more than anybody else to take advantage of that, if there's some way to take advantage of it going forward in her campaign.
But sometimes it's also popular to be an outsider, like Haslam was coming in. You have Randy Boyd and Bill Lee. And
you only get to run as an outsider once if you get elected.
That's right. But those folks are going to use it.
Yeah, well, there's not a single candidate on either side of the aisle that's running that has ever run a statewide campaign before or held a statewide office. So in that regard, it's an interesting mix. You don't have anybody that you had several people who are congressmen in the day, who served in other positions in the legislature, but a lot who've never done, and some who are coming strictly from a business perspective, which is also one that people want to talk about, because a lot of people think, well, the best way to run government is run it like a business. Others say, well, that's not necessarily. They don't work quite the same way.
Yeah.
So that argument will continue as we go into the year. And in the next couple of days, we haven't seen this yet, we're going to get a financial disclosures in terms of how much money each one of these candidates has raised for governor. That may give you another way to be able to stack up how the candidates stack up against each other in terms of money, although several of these candidates have their own financial resources independent of what they can raise. So just because you're not maybe number one or number two doesn't mean you don't have the money to do what you need to do. And Bill Lee, who has some independent financing, a businessman here in Nashville, has already begun his TV ads with an introductory ad. And from what I can see, just here in Nashville, he is spending through February, probably on all the stations here and the cable, he's probably easily spending well into 6 figures on that. And of course, he's much more well known in this part of the state because his business, the Lee Company, does a fair amount of advertising in this area. I wonder what his numbers are, and I need to go look, see what he's spending in the Knoxville, Chattanooga, Tri-Cities, and Memphis areas where he is not nearly as well known.
Right, he has to get his name out. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We are talking about Governor Haslam's final State of the State address tonight and all things politics. So if you want to chime in, you are more than welcome to give us a call in the break. 615-737-PLUS. We're coming right back.